most desire. Look inside, then there. From the east there comes the sound. From long ago it's here today. Join with your band of brothers, X-Oriente.
Hey, welcome to X-Oriente, the new voice of brotherhood. I am half of your host, Eric Diamond.
I am the other half, Jason Van Dyke.
So it's been a couple weeks since we've been on in the past, and I would just have to say that Jesse is joining us early. Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah,
happy Cinco de Mayo. I had guacamole for lunch, so that was
good job. Well, there you go. Absolutely.
In with the spirit. So we were gone for a couple weeks. I just, life got in the way. Simple as that. Yeah. Happens.
Mm-hmm. And then last week we had technical problems.
Actually that was 2 weeks ago. Last week life got in the way. I was actually headed to London.
That's right.
You were dealing with some illness,
True.
and then
that's true.
Before that we had technical problems.
Sorry. There we go.
But luckily, so we have I got a new Mac, so that's gonna hopefully fix all of the problems. It took me a while to realize, like, I've had this Mac. It's been really good to me until it wasn't, and I went and got it fixed over December, and then realized that, like, it's still, even fixed, it's a 6-year-old Mac, and it's just not
Yeah, dude. Computers, taking a computer to get fixed is like taking your hamster to the vet. There's just no purpose. They're disposable. The bills are all you're gonna feel.
Yeah.
So yeah. No point on that.
Yeah.
Jason Hacker, hi. How are you? Good to see you.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.
So Jason, I don't know if you're aware, but the background is actually the secret lodge room that was in the Andaz Hyatt Hotel in London. They discovered it in the 1990s when they were renovating the building. They just knocked down a wall and there was this pristine lodge room. And so, sadly or not so sadly, they use it for special events. So you could actually, have a bar mitzvah there if you wanted to.
Which I think we will. That's nice.
Sort of like the temple in the temple, right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely right. That's all right.
So today we wanted to, this is a show we've been kind of talking about for a little while. And it was inspired by sort of hanging out on social media and seeing this, one of the things that we talk about a lot is, the need for critical thinking, the need for, sort of behaving in a circumscribed way on social media, which I still don't think we've, quite mastered. Certainly I cop to that,
Sure.
In fact, this may be one of the last shows that we're going to do on Facebook Live. Yeah. I think we were talking about going over to YouTube. So I think the next show we'll still announce on Facebook, but we would love to have all you guys over on YouTube. I just think it'll be a better platform in terms of, like, getting more people to participate and stuff like that. It's nothing, nothing political or anything like that. It's just, we're just trying to find the best platform to deliver the best experience for you guys. So, so we've been talking about doing it for a while. And so one of the things that kind of comes up, and it drives me kind of crazy, is you'll be on a Masonic discussion board and someone will say something really kind of, I don't know, false, cockamamie, wacky. And when you sort of, call them on it, it kind of, there's this back and forth, and then it kind of boils down to this statement, well, I have a right to my opinion. Right. And so I kind of wanted to explore that because I wanted to, I was thinking about this because I remember when I took Philosophy 101 in undergrad, we were talking about sort of like the idea of rights and privileges and obligations. And so the idea of a right is that a right is something that nobody can take away from you. Right. And it is something that is, it sort of like requires that society respected.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of a right to an opinion, I think people have. So here's my perspective on this, and you tell me I'm screwed up here, but because I know you will. I know you will.
All right.
People have opinions, you know. They just do. And so the idea that you have a right to an opinion is kind of silly because you have them, right? Whether or not you have, in other words, if someone says, well, you know, like a right can be taken away. Like a right can, you know, like you can take someone's right to life away. You can take someone's right to freedom away.
Mm-hmm.
Can you, I don't know that you could take someone's right to opinion away.
Yeah, probably not. No.
So,
I mean, you know, you can take away their right to express the opinion. You can't take away the right to have the opinion.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
So,
Yeah,
so here's my question to you. Do you think that people have a right to an opinion?
Yes.
Okay.
I think all people, yeah. I think all people have a right to an opinion. And I think it's part of our humanity, right?
Uh-huh.
Part of the main feature of our humanity is the ability to reason, and with that ability comes opinions. You know, once you've reasoned something for yourself, you then hold an opinion about it. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so can that right be abrogated?
I'm not sure. I mean, like in what way? Like tell me what you're driving at here.
So if you said something like, I have the right to freedom of expression.
Sure.
Could I prevent you from expressing yourself freely?
Absolutely.
Okay. If I said you have a right to liberty, could I lock you in a closet and constrain that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. If you have a right to an opinion, can I restrain that right?
No. I think it's impossible. I mean, that would entail you being able to control thoughts, which, while a very cool power in theory, you know, you just can't do. I mean, it's impossible.
Right.
Right. So yeah, no, you can't.
So that's it's funny. I had a very heated discussion with some Masons on Texas Freemasonry. All right, we're back. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Hi guys.
Yeah. So this all came about in heated discussion, and I was, you know, my point of view is like you can't assert a right to an opinion because you just have them.
Okay.
You know, and so what you can say is, I have a right to express my opinion. And people do.
Sure.
But then my next question is, if you have a right to express an opinion, like I guess when you're having a discussion, what are the duties? Like, in other words, all right, and here, it's troubling to me because I can see both sides of it, right?
Sure, right, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're expressing an opinion and you are hang on a second, let me just get rid of this thing. There we go. If you're expressing an opinion and you you hold an opinion that is not based on any factual evidence.
Okay. In other words, it's wrong.
It's wrong. Right. If the evidence, the evidence suggests otherwise,
sure.
Right. Do you have do you have a right to assert that, well, I have a right to my opinion, you know, based on all this evidence against it? Like, I believe the earth is flat and I have a right to that. So shut up. Right. Does that end the conversation?
It can, yes. Because what that signals is, I'm not changing that regardless of the facts that you present to me. I will never change. it's the hallmark of a dumb person. But you know, I mean, it really honestly is just them saying that it doesn't matter how good your argument is. I'm just not going to change because, you know, screw you. Mm-hmm. And you know, yeah, that now a more interesting question, does that attitude belong in Freemasonry? Does it necessarily, does it comport with our values as Masons? I don't think it does.
I have to agree with you. I don't think it does at all. I think
that one of the main reasons that we get together, we sit in lodge together, is to, we sit in lodge together to build trust in each other, right? And then we use that to grow that trust, that brotherly trust. We use that to then stretch ourselves and grow. And part of growing is accepting new information, you know, and politicians call it evolving, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You've evolved on a topic. It just means you've changed your mind because you now have better facts. Someone has convinced you to move in a different direction. And I think that's exactly what Masonry, its primary purpose is to do, is to mm-hmm. get guys to do that, and to do that in a constructive and positive way. If you shut that down and say, no, absolutely, you're a human being, you're an American, you're free, you have liberty, then go away. But why are you a Mason?
Yeah.
You know, that's the part that would confuse me. And I don't mean to sound harsh, but you know, it's a bottom line kind of a thing. Like, what if you don't want to have a discussion that its aim is to grow, right? To evolve your own opinion. If you're not open to those, then why even participate? Mm-hmm. It seems silly to me. It really does. Mm-hmm. But again, that's just my opinion. And I've got a right to it.
But is it?
Right. No.
Is it? No, let me challenge you on that. Is it your opinion? Or is it an argument?
Well, that's an argument.
It is an argument. Yeah, I would agree. I would say that's an argument. I would say that you could point to lectures in Freemasonry, to mm-hmm. values in mm-hmm. Freemasonry, to parts of the ritual mm-hmm. that basically, you know, contraindicate, you know, that sort of mm-hmm. attitude of,
yeah, absolutely.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I think that the idea of constructing an argument, is, mm-hmm. So Charles Ward says it's not an opinion; right. It's a misstatement of fact. You know, yeah. Well, so let's talk about facts for a second. Like, what exactly is a fact? Right?
What exactly does "is" mean? Yeah,
what is "is"? I mean, depends right. on what "is." Yeah,
right.
But a fact is a point of data, right? A fact is a piece Correct. Of evidence mm-hmm. that supports your point of view.
Correct. And ideally a fact is a truth. Right?
It is
true.
It is evidence. It could be true.
Give me an example where it's not. Where a fact is false.
You could say that
facts aren't false. Facts are truths. And here's why. And I think it's essential for a fact to be a truth, because otherwise, how do you rely on it? Right? Uh-huh. In order for it to be evidence. You can't. If it's false, you know, a fact is a truth.
So, all right. So if somebody, and this is, I see this a lot. So when someone says, well, you know, everybody knows that, you know, members of the Church of blank, you know, want to kill all Christians, right?
Right. Sure. Okay.
Right. That's a fact.
No,
but it's not a true fact, right?
But it's not a fact.
In the mind of the person who's wielding that fact, it's true.
But it's not a fact.
Well, so what constitutes a fact?
It's true. That's what constitutes a fact.
It sounds like a bit of a tautology there, right?
Right.
It's a fact.
Right.
All right.
But again, a fact is true. You know, if your facts are not true, you can't rely on them. And so that's what I'm saying. And so, like, I think that when you say something like, "Well, we all know that," anyone who starts a sentence, it's a argument, a sentence with "we all know that." First of all, that's bullshit right there, because we don't all know that. You know,
right?
You're already starting. You're on the wrong foot. Excuse me.
Bless you.
You're starting on the wrong foot by making a massive assumption, right?
Right.
and it's an assumption that is already untrue, because you can't make those kind of sweeping statements in a factual thing. A fact is, you know, on May 5th, we celebrate Cinco de Mayo. That's a fact, right? Because it's true.
Right.
We do.
Okay.
That's the date, right? And so, like, they're very, very simple. Facts should be simple. They should be very bite-sized, and they should be truths. And if you're not starting from that point, you're already on a dishonest foot. So.
Okay. Well, that's
my theory. I'm sticking to it.
You're entitled to your opinion.
My story. That's right. That's my story. Right.
So I would say that a fact is verifiable.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Sure.
So a fact should be something that I could check and verify. And if I can't check like, in other words, if you said everybody knows, right? How would you verify that?
Right.
The only way that you could verify that is by asking polling everybody. Right.
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 Exactly.
You know, even when you do a poll, you say the majority of people, or, you know, so many.
And there's error. Here's where my margins of error.
Yeah.
Right. That's an honest statement.
Right.
And that is a fact, because it's honest. It's true. You know, you're starting off on the right foot there. But I mean, like, yeah, I think the flat Earth discussion is a really good place for this, which is like, no, the Earth is flat. No, literally every fact that we know says that is untrue. You're just being contradictory, right, if you think otherwise. It's silliness.
Yeah,
you know, and in my opinion, I don't think that there's room in Masonry for that kind of tomfoolery. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know exactly.
Why join an organization if you're not going to change or grow? That's just dumb. That's silly. That literally is, it is just banging your own head into a wall repeatedly and thinking, you know, if only this wall wouldn't be here. You know, that's your takeaway from that.
It is. And here's why this bothers me. And this is why. This is kind of why we're doing a show about it, I think.
Yeah,
these ideas that people are entitled to their opinion, and that entitlement is as valid as somebody who's forced to, you know, make an argument with evidence that's verifiable, is that it has some very real effects in society. And you only need to look at the anti-vaxxers, right? Like measles.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Measles is now a huge problem in places like here. I mean, I was just in London a couple weeks ago, and it's a huge problem there. Like they've had like a huge spike in cases, and now it's not just, you know, a bunch of crazy parents who are getting, you know, who are either getting measles or their kids are getting measles and dying from it. right? Which doesn't really happen in like, sub-Saharan Africa or Central India or
right.
Because they're all vaccinated. It's like
Correct.
they don't even, it's not even a thing, right?
That's absolutely right.
It's when you're allowed, when people are being polite and they just say, all right, you're entitled to your opinion. You don't believe, you think that the government is putting chips in your body when they vaccinate you. Okay, don't vaccinate your children. It's a free country. You're allowed, right? Everybody's allowed. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, right? Well, that has some real effects on the rest of us, right? And it has an effect on health. It has an effect on, I don't know, elections, right? It has an effect,
absolutely,
right?
Yeah, it does.
And it allows you to be manipulated, right? Because what it says is all I have to do is create an emotional enough argument.
Right. And a little bit of doubt.
And a little bit of doubt, right? And and no problem. Right. And I can basically, it's really the kind of the definition of like, what they call asymmetrical warfare.
Right.
So for those who don't know, asymmetrical war, the whole idea of asymmetrical warfare is like the enemy only needs to attack once, right? You have to have 100% track record against the enemy who only has to succeed once. That's asymmetrical, right? Warfare didn't be like that. Warfare was like you would send a messenger to the enemy, come meet me on the field tomorrow at 3 p.m., after tea, and we'll fight it out, right? And that was symmetrical warfare. You brought your people, they brought their people. But like insurgency is an asymmetrical warfare. They only have to get in once, right? And the thing is like when you look at, say, something like the 2001 Twin Towers attack, right?
Sure.
That killed like 3,500 people. Huge tragedy, big scar in our American psyche. Absolutely a horrible, tragic, horrifying event. However, the number of people who've died as a result of that is like 10 times something, like at least 10 times. Yeah. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
As a result of that. So that's an example of asymmetrical warfare. So in that one attack, this group of people like struck enough terror into the heart of a population that they took all these actions and took all these decisions that costs trillions of dollars. And, whether it was justified or not, that's not the purpose of the show. It's just to sort of illustrate how when you're not dealing in evidence-based logic and argument, right? It becomes very easy to manipulate people and to get you to do things.
Because when you don't change, when your opinion doesn't change, now I've got you. Let's put it in a different perspective, right? What about brands? Brands use that, right?
Tell me.
So a brand hopes to God that you become so loyal to it that it doesn't matter that there's a better product out there, that there's a newer product out there. It doesn't matter. You will still go back and buy it again and again and again, right? And most brands seek that sort of loyalty, that fanaticism. But that's not good for you. As a consumer, you're fighting your own self-interest at that point, right? Because if there is something better out there, the market is positioned in such a way that when it works correctly, you are the driver of it. The consumer is the driver because it's what you want and people have to deliver that to you. But when it becomes what the brand wants and they're driving, that whole system goes off the rails. and nothing good comes of that, which is why we have anti-monopoly laws, frankly, right? Because you can't let the brand drive. It really does. It throws off the whole system. A monopoly is one way in which they would drive. That's more of a structure, though, right? Rather than a
yeah, that's more of a structural thing. That's not
sure.
That's not necessarily an emotional thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
It's more of an economic,
It is. You're right. But yeah, so I think it's really important. I agree with you 100%. I think it's really important that people buy into this idea that, you do need to keep an open mind. You do need to actually listen to other people, especially when you enter into a conversation voluntarily, online, wherever you are, right? Mm-hmm. Part of being a good man is saying, I'll have to think about that. I don't know if I agree with you, but I need to think about that more.
Yeah.
That's okay to say, but not, I got my opinion. I'm entitled to it. No, you're not. Not entitled to anything.
Right. So then the next thing that happens, typically on any given Masonic discussion group that you would care to attend on Facebook, is that when you refute that argument, right? So someone says, well, I think, one day classes are a great idea and we should keep doing them because we need more numbers, blah, blah, right? Mm-hmm. And you say, well, the evidence says that this is not a great idea. And Mm-hmm. So then what happened? Then the next thing that happens is that person who is on the refuting end of that, and then says, oh, well, why are you attacking me? That's such unmasonic behavior. You're attacking me. Right? And typically what I find is that, and this is, in all full disclosure, this is completely anecdotal. I don't have quantitative evidence to back this up. Right.
Right. Absolutely.
It's typically the kind of thing where the more uninformed the opinion, the more people feel attacked when you say, well, the evidence says this,
Absolutely. And I find that's true regardless of where you are or what you're talking about. That defensiveness and it usually is, it is just whatever it is that I'll hit the nuke button, right? If you come anywhere near my opinion, to try and, I go straight to, I'll play the race card. I will tell you you're unmasonic and that you're attacking me and all these things. Yeah. Like whatever your ace in the hole is, it's getting used right there for no reason. Just I want this over with.
They come in two flavors. The first flavor is you're attacking me. That's unmasonic because you're not supposed to attack a brother.
Correct.
Right. The second flavor is, why are you sowing disunity? We need to be unified, right?
Right.
We need to be like all in lockstep and all marching in the same direction. And
right. Which is hilarious. I love that. It is such a fundamental misunderstanding of what that stuff means, right? Unity doesn't mean that. Unity means that that we all agree on a set set base of ground rules while we have a conversation with each other in order to change each other's minds, right? to have an honest intellectual debate.
Yeah.
And then come out of it with a little bit of something new, right? You've grown.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the concept of unity is that even though we might disagree and we might go to bed disagreeing, right? We're still brothers and we're still, we still respect each other. We still treat each other with respect, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
And respect doesn't necessarily mean I agree with you. It just means that you're still it doesn't make you a bad person because, you're arguing like an idiot.
Yeah.
in my opinion.
And in another way, it's, that unity can be thought of as something in a lodge setting. So if the master asks for opinions on an issue, right? Who should we give? We've got a $500 discretionary funds, and we'd like to we're going to give this to a charity. Which charity should we choose? Okay. Now there's 5 different opinions in the room. Each brother gets his chance to express the opinion. Master looks at it and goes, all right, well, I'm going to pick that one. The other 4 guys who didn't get their charities picked don't get to then just say, well, wait a minute, we need more time to argue this out. It's, no, all right, we chose. Now let's all go in the same direction, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's kind of what unity means as well, in that. It's that, no, we discussed it. And then when we came to a conclusion, that's over now. The conclusion has been made. That's why it's called a conclusion. You know, and then we move forward, you know, like Hambrick said, wrong. Unity is overrated.
Well, it is, you know, it is when your conception of unity is that we're all thinking the same way and in groupthink and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's just silly. That's just dumb. You know, that's lazy.
Yeah, for sure. So here's an interesting question. So I see this a lot on social media, right? I see it all the time. Like you just jump into any Masonic group, and you're gonna find people who argue like this. My question is, do you ever see this outside of social media? Do you ever see this in a lodge?
Oh God, no, absolutely not. Because no. You don't. And the reason being is because there's a very real possibility that when you communicate in that way, someone's going to throw a punch, right? I mean, honest to God, there's a consequence to that. And if you're that obstinate in a conversation, mm-hmm. you know, you never know. And so no, I don't think so. I've never seen anyone like that. And of the times that I have, they are fantastically unsuccessful people. You know what I'm saying? And rightfully so. Rightfully so. So no, I think social media fosters this kind of a thing. We're very connected, but disconnected at the same time, mm-hmm. right? You're disconnected from seeing the nonverbal cues of another person. You're very disconnected. It's much more difficult to empathize with someone in a conversation online, mm-hmm. and so therefore, you know, that communication devolves. Yeah.
So something. Something Charles
mm-hmm.
Ward said on the
mm-hmm.
the comments. He said that. The opinion is a belief by which definition is beyond fact. People are starting to have more beliefs and fewer opinions.
I'll buy that.
I see what he's saying.
So do I, and I'll buy that.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty good.
I think that they're emotional conclusions that people are mm-hmm. making, mm-hmm. and that and here's the thing too. I think what you see too, and it's kind of a perverse aspect of Freemasonry, is that in a kind of a live lodge situation, you can have you know, like if you have somebody who has a contrary belief system, right? There are mm-hmm. ways to get rid of people like that.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
And so what happens is over time, people feel marginalized. You know, they're not invited to play reindeer games, right? They're not
right.
given titles and
correct
opportunities and stuff like that. And then they finally say, you know what, screw this, I'm out of here. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that's kind of a way that you can, and in fact, I mean, that happens on social media as well. I mean, people get banned and things like that. So let me ask you this. So what would, let's flip it for a second. Let's say that you're the type of person who you have sort of a core belief. Mm-hmm. And from a Masonic perspective, how should you reconcile the fact that your belief, like you don't have evidence to support your belief? It just feels
mm-hmm.
good. It feels
mm-hmm.
truthy, right, to
mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm.
So what steps should you take in order to, I don't know, like reconcile those two things?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so I think that what's really funny is I think that presupposes that I would want to, right? Because if I already have that good warm feeling from my belief, I'm not going to challenge it. I'm not going to go and purposely look to undermine that belief. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I mean, like, so basically, what we're saying is that to have that kind of belief, that sort of belief architecture, if you will, right,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
is not in line with Masonic values and Masonic teaching, right?
Absolutely. Right.
All right. So if I'm one of those people, first of all, how do I recognize if I'm one of those people? Right. And then what do I do about it?
God, you know what? I think that you have to rely on other people, you know, the friendly, the good counsel of a brother who tells you, hey, you know, you need to really think this through a little bit, you know, and hopefully that brother helps you on that path and gives you that little kickstart right down that road, but in a respectful way. But I think that's the only way to do it. I don't think that human beings don't necessarily want to hurt themselves like that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well,
they already see the comfort. They don't need, you know, uncomfort. And so they actively avoid that. And so the thing is that by having in Masonry, that's again a reason why we're all in lodge together is to help each other through those kind of little roadblocks that we set up for ourselves. And if a brother does it right, he can kind of push someone just a little bit, nudge them down that path to say, hey, maybe you ought to look at this closer. And then be there to help and reinforce that investigation and make sure that they're doing it in an honest and open way with themselves. And they're actually taking in the facts that they're getting. And seeing them for facts. And then hopefully they grow from that. Right. And we all do it together. That's the whole point of Freemasonry. And that's where its role is, I think.
So that requires a lot of trust.
It does. It a lot of trust and a brother who's good enough to do that. Right. Someone who's wise enough, right, not to fumble about, you know, and offend someone and say, you know, you're an idiot. You should look at it this way. Well, you know what I'm saying? That's the wrong path to take.
But here's the thing: like, you don't even have to. I don't even think you have to be as crass as that. I don't think you have to be like, you know, you're an idiot.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly.
No, but what I'm saying is that you it's not even like you have to be that blunt. Like, even if, because like, remember, like, go back to what we were talking about at the beginning. Like, all you have to do is say, I think you're wrong and here's why. And just the fact that you're doing that is an attack. Right. Sure. So you have to be willing to step into the fray and risk alienating a brother by saying, you know what, you need to think this through.
Right.
Because the evidence
I think that you've got to do it in a really respectful way. And I think you've got to do it in a tactful way. And I think that's the true challenge. And what you've got to be able to rely that you're going to have a brother who can actually do that. And that's a skill set. That's not that's not something that you're going to find in everyone. And so hopefully you've got someone who's there to do those things for you. So
here, all right. So here's the problem with that. And here's the thing. I'll just start out by saying I completely agree with you.
Yeah. Okay.
Completely agree with you. But there's some sort of, I don't know, natural, unnatural, logistical issues with that. Why? Right. One is that you need to have a brother with a contrary point of view to yours.
Well, yeah. There you go.
That you trust.
Right.
How many of those do you have? Right.
That's right. And so that's what I'm saying is that, this is not an easy.
It's a chicken or egg kind of thing, right?
It absolutely is. It totally is. And like, there's, I think that a lot of us are not lucky enough to have that brother to count on. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's a tough one. It's a pickle.
It's a pickle. It is. It's a Masonic pickle.
It is. It is.
You know, the Heinz 57 label is a keystone. Is a keystone.
It is. That's right.
Right?
There you go.
It's a Masonic pickle.
There it is. Masonic relish. Relish this conversation.
Relish this conversation. So, I think you're right. I think that is helpful, but I think that there are things that you can do as an individual to help this process. Right?
I agree. And I think, let me just say this right off the bat. I agree with that 100%. And I think that how you start to help is by picking something, pick a belief of yours and then challenge it. Do that yourself. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And really, really seek to understand the contrary to that belief. Right. And once you start doing that by yourself, man, you are way on the way to becoming the person that you're supposed to want to become.
Right. Yeah. I think if there's one thing that you can do as an individual, as a Mason, right? Yeah. And this is kind of like, I kind of wanted to say before, this is like the French call this esprit d'escalier. It means the spirit of the staircase. And it's like, you ever have a conversation and you go, like afterward, you go, oh, I should have said this, Yeah.
Like, right. Yeah.
That's esprit d'escalier.
Yeah.
And you said, you said we're human beings. I said, and I wanted to say, well, we're not human beings. We're Masons.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. We're Masons. We're kind of, I like to think of that Masons, we're a cut above just the riffraff, the general human beings. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So my thought, and I do this this on a pretty regular basis because I'll just give an example. My wife and I, like my wife is like the smartest person I know. Like I definitely completely married up. But she has opinions that are sometimes a little extreme for me. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know if I want to go that far,
Sure.
And so in order to keep, matrimonial harmony, I feel like it's my duty to investigate it from her perspective.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So what I'll do is here's kind of my process. So my first process is if I hear something and it sounds like completely like I totally believe that, like absolutely no doubt about it. Right. My first inclination is to doubt it because it's probably like it's hitting my lizard brain. Right. It's creating like a little squirt of serotonin and dopamine. It's giving me a little like, oh yeah, this confirms what I already know, like
I do the same thing. If it's too good to be true, it's definitely not true.
Yeah. But it's too good to be true when the facts don't align with it. But like, if it feels really good, doubt it. Doubt it.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. Right. Yeah. Is that anytime it feels really good to me, I go, wait a minute.
Right.
Wait a minute.
Right. I'm not that smart.
Right. And that I always feel like, wait a minute, someone's going to pull that football away because it feels great.
Yeah.
And it's not going to stay that way.
That is too easy a field goal. Yeah. So
absolutely.
Right. So then the next thing that I do is I go on Google. I mean, this is so easy to do. And it's so funny because you can, if you start doing this, you can get really good at it in just a few seconds, like in the midst of an online conversation. You can do this like it's so fast, right? There's a couple things that you can do. You can type in the thing that you believe, right? Dinosaurs aren't really extinct, and then criticism. Then it's just the word criticism.
Yep. Criticism,
right?
Absolutely.
So whatever that argument is, flat Earth criticism.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. What was the one I was just reading about it in like
chemtrails. Oh, sorry.
No, it wasn't quite as controversial. I think it was, trying to remember. It showed up in my Reddit feed.
Okay.
And it was it was something. It was something. Oh, it had to do with Venezuela. Someone had posted a meme.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Oh no. You know what it was? It was our good friend. I shouldn't call his name out by name, but a good friend of ours from Texas. Put it that way.
Okay. Yeah.
Had posted this quote by Abraham Lincoln, and it said something like, it was basically sort of a screed about, you know, how you can't create prosperity by taking things away from rich people.
Right. Got it.
And I just went, really? Did he really say that? Right. And so I just typed in the quote. All I did was highlighted part of the quote, took it out to Google, and boom, it starts coming back. Oh yeah, that was actually misappropriated to Abraham Lincoln. It was actually said by this reverend pastor, who felt that, you know, I guess his opinion wasn't weighty enough, and so he attributed it to somebody else. And there's several of those things. And in fact,
everything you read on the internet is true. Abraham Lincoln.
And I was able to, that's like my favorite meme. And I just threw it back there. Like, not every meme you see on Facebook is true. Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln.
But it was my point is it was so easy. I mean, and you have things like Snopes, right? Which isn't 100%, but it's pretty reliable.
It's pretty good.
Like Wikipedia, it turns out, is pretty reliable. I mean, you know, academics hate it because it's free, right? It's not.
Exactly.
But there's something about like kind of the wisdom of crowds that like it kind of evens things out. So nothing too extreme winds up on Wikipedia. And even when it does, like you get those warnings that say, you know, hey, this is a little bit suspect because there's not a lot of, you know, discussion evidence, or whatever. Right.
Yeah. And stuff like that. Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's super easy. So the first step is, you know, when you have this belief system, or when you're confronted by something in Facebook, right? Even if you think you agree with it, right? Before you say something, before you go out and render your opinion, right? Check it out. Just check it out. Just go to, you know,
here's a novel idea. Think it through before you have an opinion.
Yeah. So Mike Hambrecht says, I sometimes use extreme view opinions to get my point across. My actual opinion is probably a bit less than the crazy view I stated.
Right. That's called negotiations, Mike.
This is like a bet noir of mine, right? I hate this.
Really?
Right? Oh yeah, because and in fact, a very, very close friend, one of my go-to guys in my lodge who usually has contrary opinions to mine, but I still trust, right? Posted something like this today. It was had to do with Venezuela. You know, and people will repost these memes that oftentimes are false or misleading or right. And then they say, well, it's to get a point across. Right.
Yeah. Right.
So the problem with that is that you're not presenting it that way. You're not saying, by the way, this is a really extreme point of view. I don't actually believe this, but I'm doing this to get a point across. What I actually believe is this. Right. So I think that there's a bit of I mean, look, I love Mike. This is not a criticism of him personally, but you know, that kind of extreme method of storytelling, right? It doesn't help, because what you're doing is you're kind of going out there with that extreme opinion as fact, right? When it's really not. And so to me, a better alternative would be to like what you could do is you could use an analogy or a parable, right? As far as Jesus, I hear was pretty good at that kind of stuff, right?
I've heard.
Yeah. But you could use a parable.
He was just ripping off Aesop, but you know, whatever.
Or was Aesop ripping off of him?
Well, there you go. That's an argument. I'm in.
So that's kind of, I would either use a parable, or I would present the argument, and I would present the evidence for your argument rather than to gin it up into an extreme position to make the point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because it kind of plays into a lot of like logical fallacies. For example, the slippery slope fallacy, right? That's kind of how that tends to. Charles Horn just said,
"Use the Force, Harry."
Oh gosh,
Gandalf.
Use the Force, Harry. Gandalf. Love it. Yeah. My thing is like construct the argument and make your point with evidence, right? Say, this is what I believe. And here's the evidence that leads me to believe that. I think that that's a much stronger position than to take a more extreme thing to make the point. And that's kind of how you get to a slippery slope thing.
Yeah.
Right. So
I
people,
totally agree.
what people do is they say, well, if that were true, then what happens when, this happened with the, it was something about like transgender and Masonry. Like, what happens when, there are thousands and thousands of people switching their gender just to become Masons? Like, really?
Yeah. Cause that's going to happen.
Because that's going to happen. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go through all that hormone therapy and gender reassignment surgery and therapy and all that stuff just so I can be, attend a one-day class.
Years of physical and psychological damage so that I can join your men's club. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. But I'm happy to be proved wrong. Show me the instance.
Show me the evidence. Yeah. So
I want to see one because I think it would be hilarious. And I would shake that guy's hand and go, "Congratulations, you got exactly what you wanted." Let's enjoy this pancake breakfast. I think it's that kind of stuff is ridiculous. So, yeah. And guys are, do you see the comments,
Yeah.
Business is largely built on this phenomenon. Yeah.
It's important. It's important for us to be like, to circumscribe and to be kind of evidence-based and results-based when we argue. Like I remember too, like the arguments around, so this is one, I thought we should do a show about it. Maybe we will, but I don't know. It just seemed kind of annoying, but it was about, women Freemasons, right?
Sure.
So there were a couple of discussions about how, women weren't Freemasons. They were pretending to be Freemasons because a woman can't be a Freemason. Right. And I said, well, from your point of view, that's true. Right. Like, right. It to me, like when I look at stuff like that, right.
Sure.
I see like a church argument. It's like a church argument. It's like saying, well, if you're Christian, but not Catholic, you're not really a Christian. Because you got to be Catholic. Because we were the OC church, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
OC standing for original church.
Original church.
The OG church. Yeah.
The OC.
The OGC.
The OGC.
Right. We were the original. So like, and it's an absurd argument, right? To say that, like you have ridiculous. That's how people like start to kill each other over like belief systems. So I think that, the position that I took was that they exist, right? They're not part of our system. We don't recognize them formally. We don't have, Masonic visitation or amity between us. But if you're a woman and you want to become a Freemason, there are opportunities. There are, you can join a group that practices what looks to be like Masonry, and, whether it's fake in my mind or not, it's immaterial. It's like to them, it's like it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, with the exception of they're all, having, their reproductive organs on the inside of their body rather than the outside of their body. Right.
Right.
It's all, it looks the same to me. So, that very quickly devolved on social media to, well, you're advocating for women in Freemasonry. Right.
Right. That's just silly. That's just silliness. No, thanks. Mike Hambrick, Gnostics for the OC.
No, they were the OG. The original Gnostics.
That's great. They were OGs.
So
That's
yeah,
great.
so that's to me, that's the danger, because then it, what you're doing, and I feel like, there's an interesting phenomenon that, Martin Starr, some people might know him. He's a member of our lodge, and he's written several really good books. Big Crowley expert. But one of the things that he was interested in a few years back was sort of new religious movements. And he's written and edited several books on that. And he talked about this idea of societal tension, right? Which is this need for new religious movements to close the circle, like circle the wagons, like to close ranks, right? And so like it really helps the Scientologists, for example, when they're able to say the whole world is against us.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And the reason that they're against us is because we know something that's upsetting to them, and
right. And it's a reaction.
It's
right.
a reaction.
It's reactionary.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so that societal tension helps bind people inside the group together, right? But it only works with small movements, right? It only works with small religious movements. And so the example that he told me about, and actually there's a very good book that he recommended that I read that was really good. It was called The Churching of America. It's sort of about the history of new Protestant religious movements. A little dry and academic, but it was very interesting, because what it said is that as religious movements get bigger, they have to be more inclusive to let more people in with more divergent, more different points of view. So if you look at, say, the Methodist Church, which I always thought was like the Wonder Bread of churches, right? I mean, as a Jew, what do I know, right? Like it's all like, it's all, it's all like,
it turns out you were
a lot of crosses, a lot of Jesus, right? But I always, when I would meet people who claimed to be Methodists and went by Methodist Church, they were never like super outlandish, super crazy. It just seemed like middle of the road,
right.
Just sort of like your basic Christianity, right? Well,
yeah.
It turns out that the Methodists, when they started, were radical, rebellious, dangerous,
yes, they were.
crazies,
Yeah, absolutely. and there's a lot to be said for that. You're 100% right. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
All right. So let's wrap this up.
Okay.
I think that we've gotten to a point where, I think it's pretty obvious, really, that, while you do have a right to an opinion, you also have the obligation, to challenge that opinion, either yourself or let someone else do it for you, and take the assistance when they do. And that is incumbent upon Masons. I mean, if you consider yourself a Freemason, you ought to be doing this because it leads to growth. Yeah. And that's what we're here for.
Yeah. And you're better off doing it yourself. Right. It's less embarrassing and less,
it is
less,
absolutely
less traumatic if you do it yourself than if you allow other people to do it for you.
Absolutely.
But if and when they do, right, I think it's your duty as a Freemason. Because if a brother tells you this, you have to, I feel like you have to take that at face value and say, well, there's a reason he's saying this. Let me go verify if this is actually true or not.
There you go. 100%.
And then you look at the dispassionate facts, and if it lines up, then you have an obligation to say either there is some doubt on my position, and I have to withhold my judgment, or you're right. The evidence does support your opinion over my opinion. I will therefore change my opinion.
It's exactly right. Yeah.
Or I have to go find evidence to the contrary that refutes his evidence to say, there's this evidence, but there's that evidence that counteracts this evidence, and go into that discussion and that dialectic in a respectful manner, and not feel like you're being attacked, and not feel like you're being, persecuted and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Cool.
I think we did good here.
We did. All right. So we wanted to start like a new segment called Masonic Picks. And the idea of Masonic picks is that it's just something that would be of interest to Masons. It's not necessarily Masonic, but just something that is kind of cool. And it could be Masonic, it could be not Masonic, but I should have a full disclosure. The only support that we get from this show is from our executive producers. So we're completely listener funded, listener supported. We don't take advertising. We don't get paid. We're not influencers. I mean, hopefully we're influencers, but not like that. Not on Instagram.
Yeah, not like Kylie Jenner.
That's right. Yeah, so we don't take money for talking about stuff like this. So what's your pick of the week?
So mine's going to be non-Masonic. And you and I talked about this, but Jesus, I talked to everybody about it. I'll tell you, to find a way to see the movie Free Solo. And the reason that you want to see it is it's a fantastic documentary about a climber who goes without ropes up one of the tallest, steepest faces on the planet. And he does it what's called free solo. And it's insanely dangerous, and lots of people died doing that stuff. And it had never been done before. This movie is about him doing a 3,200 foot ascent up El Capitan in California. And it's nuts. It is the craziest thing you'll ever see. But as a Mason, it's really interesting to me because you watch it and you watch his focus and his determination to be better, just a little bit better every day, just a little bit. And how he methodically goes about making himself better, and how he is really aware of his focus and his techniques and things like that. And it's cool to watch. It is really interesting, and I think you take a lot away from that movie. Aside from the fact that it's just brilliantly entertaining. So that's my pick of the week.
And it's called what? Free Solo?
Free Solo. Where do you get it? That won the I don't know. I think that it's on National Geographic. National Geographic produced it. It was out in theaters. It won the Oscar for Best Documentary. And so it's out there. Go find it. And you will not regret it. It's amazing. I think you can get it on Amazon. I think you can on Amazon Prime. I think you can get it. You can rent it.
Cool.
Yeah, you can stream it. Right?
Stream it or rent it.
It's awesome. And I highly encourage you to rent it because it gives them money and they deserve it because it's really good and you should support it. That's the kind of good thing you should support. All right, what's your pick?
That's cool. All right, so my pick, I have to just fire up my browser because I want to get this right.
Okay.
Let's see here. Okay, so this is a film. It is actually Masonic, right? Okay. It is called for crying out loud, Liberty Mutual. It is called Terra Masonica. I'm actually hoping that we can get the filmmaker as a guest on the show because it's an amazing film. It was made in 2017. It is available on iTunes. It might be available on Prime Video. But it's definitely available on iTunes. I recommend everybody go buy it. Like, just
support
just to support the filmmaker. But basically, what it is it was made for sort of as a way of celebrating the 300th anniversary of Freemasonry. And this guy, it's kind of like an around the world, around the world in 80 days, but from a Masonic perspective. And what's interesting about it is that, there's a couple things. First off, it is the most beautifully shot Masonic movie I've ever seen. Like it's like he uses all the techniques of modern filmmaking, like beautiful drone shots, beautiful architectural cinematography, like the interviews are like super interesting. And but the other thing that's interesting about it is that he really goes and shows you sort of a cross section of all of sort of the rich pageant of the Masonic experience, right? So he shows you, he goes to UGLE lodges, he goes to Scottish lodges, like he'll go to like I think the Mother Kilwinning Lodge number 0. He visits UGLE. He visits lodges in Brazil, lodges in Africa. Some of these are French affiliated, so they're Grand Orient systems, so they're not what we would recognize. They visit a feminine lodge, I think, in London. So it's not all of it is like what you might think of as like if you'll forgive the phrase, kosher masonry, right? It's
sure, right.
But what it does do, and this is why I think it's an important film and why it's definitely my pick of the week, is that it gives you a sense that even though there are these differences, right? I think they go to like Prince Hall and stuff. Even though there are these differences in how we practice masonry, and those differences are great enough that it causes us not to recognize each other. Still, when you compare a Mason to a guy off the street, whatever that flavor of masonry is, and whatever that flavor of guy off the street is, we have more in common as Masons than we have differences.
Yeah.
And that to me was really eye-opening in a very beautifully filmed way.
Nice.
So it's called Terra Masonica. It was directed and written by Boulard Tristan. I think he's French.
I've seen parts of it and it's amazing. Yeah. It's really cool.
Just a beautiful, beautiful film.
All right.
A great thing to
good pick
to play at your lodge. Anyway, so that's it. I think we'll be back next week, barring any unforeseen circumstances, any catastrophes.
Right.
We'll be on a new Mac, so hopefully everything will run a little smoother. Again, we want to thank our executive producers. You make the show possible. Without your support, all of the stuff that we've been able to accomplish in terms of expanding our footprint and everything like that wouldn't be possible. If you'd like to become an executive producer, you can do that at Patreon at patreon.com/X-Oriente. Thank you so much for your support. And one of the benefits, we've been doing this thing called Ex Libris. Because I've been out of town so much, I have not had a chance to curate them. But guess what? We have a curator for the library. His name is Jason, and he is going to be curating the Ex Libris books on the release schedule. So look for a pretty big dump probably this week. We'll have probably around 20 books released, and then we'll be releasing them about 5 books at a time every week until the whole library of almost 2,500 esoteric and Masonic texts.
It is massive.
It's a pretty amazing library, all in like PDF format or doc format, so that they're pretty universal, easy to read. It's a definite benefit for being an executive producer. And also a couple other things. The Android app is, I'm pleased to say, finally in development. It'll take a few months. So that's coming. And then also we're going to be having new pins made. So my question, and I'll ask you, Jason, on the air, should the new pins be the old logo or the new logo?
Oh, definitely the new logo.
I'm thinking the new logo.
The new logo.
So here's the thing. So if you've already gotten your kit, you're still gonna get a new pin when they come out. If you are still waiting on your kit, you will get new and old. It's all good all around. It's just we have to figure out a way to get the distribution faster. So we're working on that, and I think that's all I got.
That's all I got too.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for showing up. Everybody in the
good night all
chat room, And next time, YouTube. We're going to try it on YouTube. We will announce on Facebook, and so we'll include hopefully a link as to how to get this, and just be prepared for a couple glitches because we haven't really done it before. So
it'll be fun.
It'll be fun. It's always fun live. So that's about it. Take care, everybody. Fiat Vox.
Good night, everyone.